Good afternoon, everyone. And we'll just wait for everyone to join. Just let me know whether you can hear me well. And good, thank you. It's very nice to see you all today. I hope you really enjoyed that show and my speech you will enjoy today. Okay, then I think we can start. My name is Maria, and today I will tell you about Russian culture and Russian films and cartoons. And I think most of us remember our childhood and youth together with the films and cartoons that we watched in that time. And today I would like to share with you films and cartoons that I really love and that remind me of my childhood and my youth and my country. And the first film today is, I'm sorry. So the first film today is called I'm Walking Through Moscow. And this film is about the Russian capital that never existed and will never exist. This is the ghost city, the paradise city of happiness and youth. And the symbol of rain is a very bright symbol that is the main characteristic feature of that film. The script to that film was written by Shpalikov, who shared a piece of his heart with all of us who never visited or will never visit Moscow. And the plot of this film presents a day of a young man who is walking on Moscow underground. His name is Kolya. You can see him on the slide on the right, tall brunette. And this film shows us one day from his life when he comes back from his working tough day, and whilst he's going home from work, he's meeting different people and he's helping each of them. The first person whom he meets is another young man whose name is Volodya, and Volodya came to Moscow for the first time, and Kolya shows him around and acquaints him with his relatives and friends. And then Kolya also meets another his friend with whom he goes to military registration, and then together they're going to resolve an argument that Kolya's friend has with his girlfriend. And the film was made, I'm sorry, just a moment. The film was made in 1964. And 60s was a very special time for the USSR. First of all, it represents the time when the censorship and repression were relaxed. Millions of political prisoners were released from black labor camps due to Nikita Khrushchev's policies. It was a time of economic growth in international trade. It was a time when there were lots of foreign tourists and they were freely walking around the capital. There were lots of international festivals held in Moscow, and lots of internationally acclaimed writers were publishing their books. And there were new trends in fashion and the chance to take part in world sports tournaments. And this image is expressed in the film through this warm, soft, very soothing and calming rain that makes young people hoping for the best future life. And even though Moscow is not only about warm summer, it's usually about severe winters, but this film shows us Moscow that will never exist, with a very good weather, lots of smiling and happy people. And now I would also like to show you a couple of pictures of Moscow of those times. On the left side, you can see how people used to wash roads, and yes, just enjoy. And also I would like you to listen to very nice soundtrack to this film, and the words to this soundtrack you can read on the slide. And if you know this song by any chance, please, you're welcome to sing it.
Бывает все на свете хорошо, в чем дело сразу не поймешь. А просто летний дождь прошел, нормальный летний дождь. Мелькнет в толпе знакомое лицо, веселые глаза, а в них бежит садовое кольцо, а в них блестит садовое кольцо и летняя гроза. А я иду, шагаю по Москве, но я пройти еще смогу. Соленый тихий океан и тундру и тайгу. Над лодкой белый парус распущу, пока не знаю с кем. Но если я по дому загрущу, под снегом я фиалку отыщу и вспомню о Москве.
I saw that some people were asking about the name of this film. I'll just repeat it one more time. It's called I'm Walking Through Moscow, or in Russian it's called А я иду, шагаю по Москве. I hope I will be able to return to the slide and you may be able to write it down, because I think this film you can find in English on YouTube with subtitles or on Amazon perhaps. So that's the name of the film in English, and in Russian it's called «А я иду, шагаю по Москве». And the next film, the next film is called Odessa, and this film was actually made in 2019 by famous director whose name is Todorovsky. And I'm sure some of you know this brilliant director. And this film is, of course, about Odessa, and specifically it's about one Jewish family that was caught because of situations in Odessa. And actually there are two historical facts shown in that film. First of all is the cholera epidemiological situation of 70s, and I will tell a little bit more about this later. And also Odessa is shown here like one of the biggest centers in the USSR of those times, where centers of the Jewish culture. And a few more words about Odessa as the biggest Jewish center in 70s in the USSR. During Second World War, many Jewish people died defending the city from German and Romanian armies. After the Second World War in 1948, Jewish culture was almost eliminated because of anti-Semitic campaign. And some people lost their jobs, others were arrested. The only left synagogue was closed. And since the end of 60s, Jewish people living in Odessa were fighting for their right to immigrate to Israel. And some of those people who were trying to immigrate occurred to be imprisoned. And in this film, we can see how people became victims of the circumstances that was cholera epidemiological situation. They had to, each of them, although they were victims, were like, so to say, in prison, just like us today, staying at home, but each of them were trying to be free from the circumstances. For example, the lady on the left, who is one of the daughters, with her husband, who is standing behind her on the left in the corner. They were trying to immigrate to Israel, but her father was totally against that idea because he was afraid for his family, for the life of his family and the life of his daughter. And talking about cholera in 70s in the USSR, it was very scary time. The epidemic started in 1961 all over the world, but mainly in Asian countries, and could come to the USSR from Iran via Caspian Sea, or from India or Pakistan via cargo ships. And when the disease reached its peak in 1970, its outbreak happened in the USSR in Odessa, and that was the most famous epidemic in the history of the USSR. And those people who used to live in Odessa and who watched this film, they noticed how precisely Todorovsky recreated all the objects, all the elements of the life of 70s in the city. And even though the film wasn't made in Odessa, unfortunately, director and his team were not allowed to go there, but they were able to recreate that in studio. And even the tram that you can see, a very famous feature of Odessa, was transported to the studio for the film. And also the sunny lit streets, all of this really reminds us of Odessa. If you like Odessa, if you ever wanted to go to Odessa, please watch this film. This is really, really interesting and very atmospheric film, even though it was made recently. And the next is cartoon that is called Last Year's Snow Was Falling. So this cartoon tells us a story of a typical after Second World War Soviet man who doesn't have any property and doesn't want to do anything, but what he wants is just, he doesn't know what he wants, but every time he wants more and more. And the main character, as you can see on the slide, is a typical Soviet Union man with a ginger beard, big nose, green sheepskin coat, and big fur hat. So the plot of the story is that his wife sent him to the forest to find a tree for the new year, for the coming new year. And this character, the main character, surrounded by different magical objects. For example, there was one of the objects that is Russian magical fish pike. It's something like Jean from the lamp from Disney cartoon. In Russia, we have this magical fish, like golden fish, but this pike fish that is actually taken from another Russian folk fairy tale. And this fish could make any wish come true. And the main character caught this fish. But apart from this fish, he also had different magical mugs and other things that helped him to achieve a lot. And the author of this cartoon mocked the wish or this worshipping behavior of a Soviet man towards everything from the West. And as you can see on the next slide, these exotic fruits that were presented in the film, in the cartoon, which is a complete rarity for the Soviet families. All of this that main character of the cartoon could have, but he always wanted more and more. And even the American Congress Hall, which was offered to the main character, wasn't enough for him. He wanted even bigger palace. And the cartoon actually has lots of allusions to the different Western brands, different classic literature, Russian and not Russian, but also it has allusions towards famous, worldwide famous artists like Leonardo da Vinci and The Last Supper, as you remember his picture. And the picture from the image from this cartoon is presented on the slide. On the very bottom, you can see it reminds us of The Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci. And right now I want to switch on the music from this cartoon, but just please mind your ears. I tried to make it as low as possible, but it might be a bit loud. So I hope that it's not too loud. The year of the cartoon, I won't be able to tell you for sure, but I think it should be like between 60s and 70s. So the end of the cartoon, I'm sorry, in the end, the main character loses everything, even though he still has lots of magical objects to change his life. But the problem is that he doesn't know what he wants. And the end of the cartoon depicts as the main character is so the main character is depicted in this cartoon as either the individual with an animal psychology at the start of a new era that can't find its place in this world without adapting to it. Or it can be a person who is still a child inside, who can't come back to his childhood, but he doesn't want to be an adult either. Or it can be also a director himself who overgrew a certain level but doesn't have a possibility to put his ambitions into reality and progress further. And the end of the cartoon gives us a strong feeling of melancholy because of the music that the director said could be used on the funeral. And the death, as we know, is the end, but the main character is like at the suspended space. He's between two shores on the bridge, and this indeterminate state can last for a very long time. And it can be just like a snowflake that is falling on the ground very slowly, that it turns into the last year's snowflake. And the next and the last film for today is called Irony of Fate or Enjoy Your Bath. This is the film that every Russian watches every New Year or New Year Eve, or even on the 1st of January. You can also find it on the main channels on TV in Russia. And the key subplot is the drab uniformity of Brezhnev-era public architecture. This sets and is explained in a humorous animated prologue, in which architects are overruled by politicians and red tape. As a result, there are identical, functional, but not very functional and not very unimaginative multi-story apartment buildings found their way into every city, town, suburb across the former Soviet Union. And these buildings are completely uniform in every detail, including the door key for each apartment. And you can see on the slide, now I will tell you a little bit about the plot of that film. And on the slide, you can see traditional public sauna in the USSR. So the plot of the film tells us a story of a group of young men, friends, who every New Year Eve, they go to the public sauna to celebrate coming New Year, of course. And that year wasn't different. They again decided to go and have some fun in public sauna, but this time they were also celebrating common marriage of one of the friends. That's the main character, whose name is Zhenya. And of course, they got drunk in that public sauna, and another their friend, whose name is Pavel, had to go to another city this evening, which is called Leningrad, or as we know it now, St. Petersburg. Unfortunately, by mistake, they sent the main character to Leningrad instead of Pavel. And Zhenya, not understanding anything, still a bit drunk after a very funny night or day, he finds himself in Leningrad, but he still thinks that he's in Moscow. He catches the taxi back home, asks the taxi driver to bring him to his flat, and even the address is the same as in his Moscow flat. He comes to, as he thinks, his flat. The key fits into that Leningrad flat. The furniture, everything is the same, so Zhenya doesn't realize that he's actually in the wrong flat, and he just falls asleep. And just at that moment, the real owner of this flat, whose name is Nadia, comes back home, and he finds some stranger sleeping on his sofa, and that's how this romantic story starts. And yes, that's all about that film, but actually not everything. You can see the buildings, multi-story buildings, which look exactly the same, and they are everywhere the same, and still you can find many of them in probably each Russian city, town, suburb. And the interior, typical Soviet flat, you can see on the right. And I'll just quickly check the chat. Maybe anyone has any questions. So the film is called An Irony of Fortune, or in Russian it's called Ирония судьбы или С легким паром. Usually, so someone is asking about a website with Russian films. I usually watch all the films on YouTube, and you can also sometimes find Russian films in there with subtitles, but they're not always good. The translation is not always great, but if you really want to watch some film, it might be quite a good way out. Yes. Have you got a list of movies that you suggest? Yes, I actually like different films, different movies, and I probably could suggest a few a little bit later because I still didn't finish with my speech. I just have a little poem to tell you. This poem was used in the end of the film, in the end of this film, Irony of Fortune. And actually, the story behind, before I will cite you this poem, I would like you to tell the story behind this poem or ballad, it's called, because it is a very interesting romantic story that happened with a poet of this poem, whose name is Alexander Kochetkov. And actually, the film itself, Irony of Fortune, was made in 70s, but the poem was written in 1933. And Alexander Kochetkov, with his wife, every summer so they lived in Moscow, but every summer they traveled to Sochi to stay in the house of his wife's father, who used to live in Sochi. And every summer, Alexander Kochetkov had to leave Sochi 3 days before his wife because he had work to do, and she stayed with her father for another 3 days. So they were for 3 days apart during summer, and that summer wasn't different. Alexander again had to leave Sochi 3 days before his wife, but the couple really didn't want to say goodbye to each other, and they were trying to postpone this last day as far as I could. But when the day actually arrived and they had to say goodbye, they came to decision just to return the tickets and to go together in 3 days. And later they found out that the train that they had to catch back home to Moscow got into the accident and all the passengers died. And later, Alexander Kochetkov was saying that love saved him. And now I would like to read you the poem. I'm really nervous, but I hope you will like this poem. And I will be reading it in Russian, and you can read this poem whilst I'm reading it in Russian. You can read it in English on the slide. Why I chose to read it in Russian is because I feel this poem in Russian better than in English, but the translation into English should be good as well. I would love you to hear the actual intonation and the emotions that are expressed in that poem in Russian. And the ballad is called «Баллада о прокуренном вагоне». Как больно, милая, как странно, сроднясь в земле, сплетясь ветвями. Как больно, милая, как странно, раздваиваться под пилой. Не зарастет на сердце рана, прольется чистыми слезами. Не зарастет на сердце рана, прольется пламенной смолой. Пока жива с тобой я буду, душа и кровь нераздвоимы. Пока жива с тобой я буду, любовь и смерть всегда вдвоем. Ты понесешь с собой, любимый, ты понесешь с собой повсюду, ты понесешь с собой, любимый, родную землю, милый дом. Если мне укрыться нечем от жалости неисцелимой, но если мне укрыться нечем от холода и темноты, за расставанием будет встреча. Не забывай меня, любимый. За расставанием будет встреча. Вернемся оба, я и ты. Но если я безвестно кану, короткий свет луча дневного, но если я безвестно кану за звездный пояс, млечный дым, я за тебя молиться стану, чтоб не забыл пути земного. Я за тебя молиться стану, чтоб ты вернулся невредим. Трясясь в прокуренном вагоне, он стал бездомным и смиренным. Трясясь в прокуренном вагоне, он полуплакал, полуспал. Когда состав на скользком склоне вдруг изогнулся страшным креном, когда состав на скользком склоне от рельс колеса оторвал, нечеловеческая сила в одной давильне всех калечит. Нечеловеческая сила земное сбросила с земли. И никого не защитила вдали обещанная встреча. И никого не защитила рука, зовущая вдали. С любимыми не расставайтесь. С любимыми не расставайтесь. С любимыми не расставайтесь. Всей кровью прорастайте в них. И каждый век, и каждый раз навек прощайтесь. И каждый раз навек прощайтесь. И каждый раз навек прощайтесь. Когда уходите. Thank you. I hope you liked that poem, and maybe one day you will watch this film as well. Thank you for your attention. And I think now I can read the questions. Yes, I'm Russian. Thank you for the question. What was the disease that caused the epidemic you talked about in Odessa? I'm sorry, I probably forgot to mention that was cholera that was brought from some of Asian countries. В фильме «Одесса» большинство актеров из России или из Украины? That is a good question. I'm not sure. I will translate. I'm sorry. I will translate. The question was either in Odessa there were more people from Russia or from Ukraine. I'm not too sure. I can't tell you precisely how many actors there were from Russia or from Ukraine, because during those times when the USSR existed, we were all Soviet citizens. So, but it's a good question, and I will look into it. What was the last film called in English? The last film in English is the one I was discussing in my presentation, was called The Irony of Fortune, or Have a Nice Bath, I think. I can return because I took the name from Amazon, so you will be able to find it there. And yes, it's called Irony of Fate or Enjoy Your Bath. What can you say about Burnt by the Sun? Yes, this is a great film as well. I really liked it. To be honest, when I was preparing for this presentation, I planned to talk about even more films, and even discussing these films, I could tell you even more, but as you know, we're always limited. So I'm sure that this was just points which, if you are interested in the film which I discussed, or in the points that I mentioned about film or the cartoon, you will be able to find and read more into it. And Burnt by the Sun, I do recommend to watch everyone, because most of the Soviet films are widely cited even today by people who used to watch it or still watch it. Where do they shot the Russian film Odessa? It was filmed somewhere in Russia. I don't remember for sure where. If I'm not mistaken, it was Taganrog, but I can be wrong. I just remember that it wasn't Odessa for sure. Can we have a list of the film with links? Yes, I could. I don't know, maybe you could email me and and I could somehow give you links if you're interested. I'm sure there will be emails in the program or somewhere, so you'll be able to find me. Do you live in Russia? No, I live in Leeds, but originally I'm from Russia, from the city of Chelyabinsk, the city where in 2000, I think 13 meteorite fell, and yeah, that's for what my city is famous. But if you know Europe, that's where I'm from. Thank you. Yes, someone is from Chelyabinsk as well. I'm saying hello to person from Chelyabinsk. Do you know like House of Fools? It's very good and interesting. I'm not sure, but House of Fools. I don't think I know that film. I'll check into that. Thank you. Could we have the poems in Russian? Yes, yes, of course. You can find that. It's called Ballada о прокуренном вагоне. But I'm sure if you type it in English, you'll be able to find two poems in English and in Russian. I don't think there are lots of good translations of these poems in the internet. So, yes, I don't know, maybe there are any more questions, or I'm just checking the chat. What about Cheburashka? Is that famous in Russia? I like that stop motion cartoon. Yes, Cheburashka is really nice. Also, there is a cartoon which is called Домовенок Кузька, which I also wanted to tell you about, but I didn't because, again, I was limited in time and I decided not to because there's quite a lot to tell about this cartoon as well. And yeah, Cheburashka is about this fairy tale creature with big ears, and he and his friend crocodile Gema. Yes, he's very famous. I was growing up watching this cartoon. We also have a cartoon which is called Ну Погоди. I personally, when I was a child, really loved it, watched a lot, and it reminded me of, I think, American cartoon Tom and Jerry, whereas in the Russian cartoon Ну Погоди, there were a wolf and a rabbit. So wolf was trying to catch the rabbit the whole series, like Tom was running after Jerry. And another fairy tale which I mentioned is Домовенок Кузька, is that magical creature that, according to folk stories, lives in each house, and he can be good, he can be bad, depending on how well owners of the house are looking after the house. If the house is clean, then Домовенок, this creature, Домовенок Кузька, is happy and he's defending the house from evil spirits. And also you need to leave some sweets or fruits for this creature at night. And if you do all that, he is nice. But in that cartoon, it's shown how a family moved from a village to the city, how during Brezhnev time there were these houses appearing, all these multi-story houses, and this poor Домовенок Кузька was moved as well, as we believe that whilst moving into a new house, you take this magical creature with you always. And he was moved to that new house and he was absolutely lost because he never saw the proper kitchen or the shower room as people used to live in villages with saunas. They didn't have like taps or showers or bathrooms or toilets. So he was absolutely lost and didn't know what to do. And it's so symbolic as globalization coming, where like this magical creature are also lost in all these technologies. Also very nice fairy tale if you want to watch it. But from watching the film, you told us about what do people in Russia do at New Year's Day, how years they look like. Usually on the 31st of December, all ordinary people are working, going to work until maybe, I don't know, lunchtime. And then we come back home. If, of course, that's a working day, if that's not a weekend. Then we usually women are cutting salads in the kitchen, preparing festive dinner. We don't have, like in the UK, traditional dinner like turkey or traditional sauce. Everyone cooks whatever they want to cook, and usually some families, before planning their menu, they check what is, because in Russia we do believe in the Chinese signs of horoscope, and we every year check what's the new year, what's the symbol of the new year, and according to that symbol we are preparing food. For example, if that's a year of the pig, then we are not going to eat pig. Of course, not all families strictly follow these rules, but usually we do follow, and we prepare something to kind of make the coming year generous and not very angry at us. Hope it doesn't sound too paganist. And yes, we usually cut salads before 12 at night, and watching these movies, these films like Irony of Fortune whilst cutting salads and preparing dinner. And then 5 minutes before 12, we are listening to our president's speech. And then at 12, children usually go to find presents under the Christmas tree. And yes, that's how, and people usually don't sleep the whole night. They go for a walk to the center. For example, in Moscow, they go for a walk to the Red Square. Then they launch fireworks, they meet friends, relatives, and people are not sleeping the whole night. And there are different jokes that 31st of December and 1st of January is like one long big day when people are celebrating. Bremenskие музыканты, yes, Bremen musicians is also a very good, beautiful cartoon that I liked as I was a child. Yes, thank you for this presentation and all the links. Thank you for listening to me. Норштейн, мультфильмы для детей и взрослых очень интересные. Yes, I agree with you. Some music videos filmed in Mongolia and Russia around border in several languages. That's interesting. I'd love to watch that. Thanks. Can you type the name of the cartoon you are talking about now? I think you meant Домовенок Кузька. I'm not sure whether it's translated. I'll try to type with English letters, but Russian name of this cartoon. So Домовенок is the name of this creature, like fairy, like dwarf, and Kuzka is his name, like Kuzya, Kuzma. So I hope that's the one you mentioned. Unfortunately, I got the time wrong and I have only just joined the presentation. Can you? Many thanks. Yes, I think all the presentations will be recorded and they will be on the website. If I'm not mistaken, I think we will be able to watch them all. Something like brownie, I think. Thank you. Okay. What would be your email address for further questions? Yes, I can type my email address. Yes, so if you have any questions, I left my email address there. You can just click on the same link to see the presentation again, okay? Have a good day too. I'll just try to see whether I replied to all the questions. Yes. Okay, I think I hope you all excuse the slightly banal comment, but it is very odd seeing a pre-mustache Nikita Mikhalkov. That's true. Nikita Mikhalkov was in the first film I was discussing, and I'm working from Moscow. No, Odessa is not Russian city. Yes, Odessa is Ukrainian city, but I was talking about USSR films today, so I was, sorry, Odessa was in the USSR. Yes, Odessa is a very interesting film. Please watch it. Okay, so Падал прошлогодний снег. Yes, that's the cartoon I was discussing today. Last year, snow was falling. Salmon and Celtic, in Celtic Tales, yeah, gives wisdom. That's really interesting. Was there anything before this and after walking through Moscow? My laptop started malfunctioning. So today we were discussing films that was called I'm Walking Through Moscow. Then there was Odessa straight after Walking Through Moscow. Then we discussed the cartoon called Last Year Snow Was Falling. Then we discussed the film that is called The Irony of Fortune, and that was all. No, pогоди, unfortunately, I didn't include this cartoon, but I did tell a little bit about it today. In English, it sounds like if you will translate really literally, rabbit, wait for me. I'm coming for you, after you. So that's the cartoon about wolf that was chasing the rabbit. Wonderful talk that reminds me of strange times learning Russian in Czechoslovakia and then feeling nostalgic about it and then getting first job in London using it in business. Спасибо. Thank you for listening to me. The volume is very low. Yeah, I was using my volume low on one of the cartoons. Okay, I think there are new messages. I have to go now, but thank you for a very interesting talk. Thank you. Have a nice evening. Why do Russians use parentheses at the end of a sentence? We use parentheses in every part of the sentence, but apart from that, we also don't have a straightforward order in the sentence as English language has. We can say, for example, you say, I have a weekend. We can say weekend I have, or have I a weekend? So we just absolutely changing all the parts of speech in the sentence. Нажмите в чате ведущие вебинара, участники тогда. I'm not sure when I should press that, but I already typed my email. So I hope. Вы думаете, что качество кинопроизводства и фильмов в России стало хуже в общем по сравнению с советскими временами? So there was a question about quality of film production in Russia, whether it became worse or in general, it's similar with the Soviet times. I think that it's actually a very deep question, but I think that we still have good films even today in Russia, but these films are not like Hollywood style movies, and maybe not everyone would like watching them. They're more like about problems about everyday tough life. That's at least what I like, and I think it's a very great level of making films. It's made by such directors as Звягинцев. I really like his films. Loveless, I think, one of his films. And Todorovsky is still making quite good films. But another point is that films that are made today, they're not made and they might be not that great in terms of greatest idea of, I don't know, like right now we have some films about like Star Trek or something like that. We don't really have such deep films with the big fantasy of the director, but we still have these films that kind of show the values of everyday life, films that still make us think a lot about our life, and maybe the quality of many of these films leaves much to be desired, but there are some films that actually their beauty is in the fact that the style, the actual quality of the picture is low, and these films are called art house films, which are like showing the severe reality of the Russian small cities, towns. So that's how I would answer this question. Why do English language films have voiceovers in Russian rather than dubbed in Russian? I don't know, maybe because they're not that widely watched by foreigners. Maybe not many people are interested to watch a Soviet film, but if they would start watching it, they would probably like it. So probably that's a good question for the directors to think about, for the Russian directors. Thank you, Maria. Do you know like House of Fools? Yeah, this I answered. House of Fools official Russian selection for Academy Award Best Foreign Language Film and winner Grand Prize Film Festival. Yes, I heard about that, but not very closely connected to that. I'll read about it. Thank you. I don't see your email address. Okay. No, how do we email address visible? I'm not sure. Show names. Is that what I need to press? I don't know. Can you see my email address now? Okay. What? I already did. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed listening about Soviet films and cartoons today. And I wish you all great evening. And thank you for joining my speech. tonight. Thank you. Bye.